Hello, friends, and welcome back to my channel. I am really excited about today's video because I want to talk about some of our specific psychic senses. So I'm going to make a few different videos that focus on different ways that our intuition comes through. Everybody is psychic. Everybody is psychic. Everybody has it. The way that it comes through the most clearly for you might be different than the way it comes through for me. And a big part of really developing your intuition and opening up psychically is learning what your spiritual language is. It's really like developing your own language with spirit. And when you start to understand what the different psychic senses are and the ways that intuition can show up, it's usually this feeling of, oh, I've been doing that all along. I just didn't realize that was my intuition. And that's why I love teaching about how our intuition can show up and how our different psychic senses show up and support us, because what's really important to know is that you are already psychic. It's just about removing any blocks to the clarity there and about recognizing it. And the more we recognize something, the more it can rise to the surface. And slowly but surely, our intuitive voice gets louder and maybe our ego gets a little bit quieter. So it's really important to realize you are psychic. And so it's just about identifying which of my senses feel stronger now, and how can I start to really focus on those more, and maybe put some more time into developing them, and the other senses can start to open up. And you might find that you naturally are really inclined to one psychic sense, one clair sense. I'll get into the clairs. You might find that you utilize all of them. I'm utilizing pretty much all of them at different times and sometimes all together. So I do have a podcast about the clairs that I will link below that kind of gives an overview as well, but I wanted to make separate videos for each, and we're going to start with clairvoyance. So the clairs are our clear senses. So we have, I'm going to cover clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, and clairsentience, because those are the main ones that come up for people. And so clairvoyance, clair meaning clear seeing. Now, clairvoyance is the psychic sense that I think most people think of when they think of psychics, and where movies and media have shown clairvoyance, it usually, it's dramatic, and it's often depicted as I'm standing here and I'm seeing like a ghost outside of me or something like that. And I think it's really important for us to recognize how this can show up. So clairvoyance, clear seeing, right? So this is seeing something in the psychic realm. It's not in the physical necessarily, but I do count things in the physical as clairvoyance as well. I'll get to that in a second. But these are the ways that clairvoyance, or just seeing, you just call it your seeing gifts. We don't have to have terms for all of this. Can come through. It can be some type of apparition or hologram. So clairvoyance is one of my primary senses. I would say it's my main psychic sense, and always has been from a young age. This was what was really turned on for me, and I didn't really know how to control it or what I was seeing. So, it was kind of a lot to handle. And for so long, I didn't realize that what I was seeing, not everybody saw, right? So I've always been able to see energy fields, and when I look at the air or physical matter, I can kind of turn on and off. I'm seeing it as a wave, as particles versus physical density. I've always been able to see auras, seeing attachments. I've always been able to see all that stuff, and I didn't know for a long time that other people didn't see that. So, and also orbs are a big one. Orbs, spirits in that sense, flashing colors. Like, I didn't know what all of that was, and I didn't know that other people weren't seeing those or really picking up on it as well. But the ways that it can show up can be an apparition, and sometimes I do see holograms or apparitions, like in front of me, and so I will see it that way. But more often than not, clairvoyance for most people is in their mind's eye, right? So you might be seeing something outside of you, and that could look like a hologram or an apparition. It's not as common for it to look so much like someone who's in the physical 3D. So I do have I have one friend, I believe that's pretty rare actually. I have a friend who does see it that way. This person can sometimes confuse me for that spirit. That's how like physical it looks. That's pretty rare. That's not super common. And when I see holograms or apparitions, I would not confuse it for a 3D person. It's a totally different density is the way that I see it. So sometimes I do see it outside of myself, but more often than not, it's in your mind's eye. And so this is really important because there are, so many people who have strong, they call it, oh, I have a strong imagination. Yeah, you're super intuitive. Or they're really good at visualizing. And a good way to think about this is if I'm describing something or somebody's describing something to you, if you're reading a book, do you visualize it? Like, are you seeing it in your mind's eye, right? And how that shows up, you're kind of like in the center of your head, and you're just seeing the image play out. If you're good at visualizing, if you see things visually when you're thinking, like, do you think in visuals? When you're reading a book, or are you visualizing that in your head? When you daydream, do you kind of go off and you're seeing things in your head? That's the same muscle as clairvoyance, right? So then the work becomes, how do I discern my imagination versus my intuition? I have podcasts about that. I can make another video about that as well if that would be helpful. But that is what's really important. Not everybody visualizes, and not everybody realizes that. And that was something that I didn't notice, or I didn't know until I started working with a lot of clients. And I had so many clients who said, I don't visualize things. I was like, whoa, right? So if you naturally visualize a lot, if you remember your dreams and you see those very, very visually, if you can daydream, start to lean into the clairvoyance and see what's coming through, right? And this is where you can ask questions and use your third eye, right? It's like, what are you seeing in your mind's eye to get some answers? Now, I think that dreams are another common way that clairvoyance comes up. We can get a lot of messages through our dreams when we're sleeping as well. And so you can start to pay attention to those, do some dream work. But I'm also going to count in this seeing video, seeing angel numbers or just seeing physical signs, right? So I have a lot of friends who get most of their intuitive messages through signs all around them. And that could be in a line that you read in a book that just stands out for you, or it's highlighted for you. For me, when I'm picking oracle cards, people always ask me, how do you choose? Well, I see, like, the card is highlighted. The card is highlighted, right? Or when I was recently visiting a friend, and she had some vortexes on the land, and the way that I saw them was there were literally arrows in front of me showing me where to go, right? But you could also be getting your signs through that orange cat that walks by that is a sign for you, or one of my friends' golden retrievers. Every time she sees a golden retriever, that means something to her. Or it could be all of the angel numbers on license plates, right? Or you asked to see a sign, you walk down the street and suddenly it's next to you. So I would count seeing signs as seeing as well. That's another way that you can get intuitive messages, and you can really lean into that. I have a number of friends who get all of their intuitive messages just through signs all around, and it's really, really cool to watch and see because it is very physical, right? So I would think about if you visualize, if you can daydream, it might come up as like an apparition or a ghost, but more often than not, it's going to be in your third eye, and seeing it that way. And it's the same muscle as when you're imagining something. So if I took you through a guided meditation, would you be seeing that in your mind's eye? That's the same exact muscle. So that's a bit about how clairvoyance comes through. Now, some ways to develop clairvoyance. Now, what I'll say for all of your psychic senses and just intuition in general, it's about practice and consistency. So taking time to build that muscle. And again, whatever psychic sense you feel most drawn to or feels most natural for you, I recommend leaning into that. And the more you do, often the other ones will open up. And sometimes your dominant psychic sense shifts over time. So I have gone through different periods where my clairvoyance is strongest, my clairaudience is strongest, my claircognizance is strongest. I've gone through like different periods, so just letting it come through as it wants to come through. So some ways that you can work with your clairvoyance and develop it. the first is like practicing with visualizations, right? And so having some type of anchor to tell your guides, like, hey, this is when I am getting information. So a really common one is, going into the center of your head and visualizing either a whiteboard or a blackboard. And you can bring up some type of screen like that. It's like, hey, here's my whiteboard. And now on the whiteboard, you're going to show me answers, right? And then starting to ask your guides, show me a color, show me a number, show me a symbol for XYZ. Show me a symbol for love. Maybe you see a heart, right? Or maybe you see wedding bells, right? So you can start to practice the visualizations and start to ask questions that prompt things from popping in, right? So, and this is where if you're asking, like, show me a number, practice with things that you're not emotionally attached to. If you jump to using your clairvoyance for, like, show me the love of my life, right? You may or may not be in an energetic state to receive that, but if we're emotionally attached to something, or we're worried about, like, is that the right or the wrong answer, that can block us from really just like leaning in and developing the gifts. So I recommend practicing with things where there's no right or wrong, right? So it's like ask to show, and you can do this every day. Show me a color, show me a number, show me a letter, show me a symbol that I need to know today. Show me what I need to know today. And notice if what comes up. Is it a scene from childhood? So my clairvoyance, it's usually like a movie scene. And the thing is that I have to go into the first bit to get the next bit, right? So they might be showing me one thing, and then once I'm like, oh, this is meaning this, then I get the next scene that might mean the next piece of it, right? You can say, show me a word, show me what I need to know today, and keep practicing that and keep practicing with the visualizations. Obviously, you can use all kinds of things to support your third eye. We can use anything that is indigo or purple will work. I think indigo and purple totally work. Clearing out the third eye activations, and decalcifying the pineal gland. I have a whole video on eating to decalcify the pineal gland. Of course, you can visualize, indigo light or even gold or white light, just clearing out your third eye. And I like to visualize when I'm opening up, like I visualize my third eye opening, like a literal eye open, and that's my sign. So I really recommend having some type of signal, like for communication with your guides, with boundaries. Hey, when this is open, when we're on, now I'm ready to get messages. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to bring up my whiteboard. Now I'm going to ask the question and trust that what's coming through, that's my psychic sense. And something I really recommend, especially with the clairvoyance, is you can practice, like imagine something, imagine something, like create a whole story if you can visualize, and just notice how that feels. And the more you use that like imagination muscle, that actually builds your clairvoyance as well. But you'll start to notice the difference between when I'm creating a whole story versus like I'm just sitting and my third eye is open, and it's just dropping in. I didn't go through this whole creation process of I went from here to here to here. And so it's a different kind of muscle. But the more you practice visualizations, if you could do guided visualizations, whatever, if you're just using that visualizing muscle daily, your clairvoyance will get stronger because it's the same muscle. But when you're receiving intuitive information, it will feel differently because it's the energy of like creating it has a different tone and just feeling for you in terms of how you're seeing it versus I'm just putting up the board and I'm just seeing it come in, right? And this is where when you're building that muscle with asking questions of things that have like, no emotional attachment, like show me a color today. You're just developing trust and helping to build that muscle in that way. Ask clear questions, right? The other thing that you can do is ask for symbols. So you can say, show me a symbol for love. Show me a symbol for for money. Show me a symbol that money's coming in. Show me a symbol for marriage. Show me a symbol for Thanksgiving. I don't know, whatever, right? Show me a symbol for XYZ. And so this is how you can start to develop that language. The next thing that I would say is really helpful is keeping a dream journal. I think it's really helpful because especially if people are struggling with their clairvoyance while they're awake, but they're having really intense dreams, information is coming through. So practice before you go to sleep, writing out a very clear question of what you want to see. And then first thing when you wake up, write everything that you can remember and just start with whatever you remember. And often as you start writing, more information comes through, and then you start to train yourself to start to remember your dreams even more. Those are, let me just think, is there any other, practicing visualizations, practicing memorizing things, right? So you can even practice like, you can do this with like an oracle card, or I like to use cards because I think they're simple, but you could use it with like a scene, I don't know, like any type of image. Just like look at it and then close your eyes and try and recreate it in your mind, right? And you get better and better and better at it. It's funny because I used to do experiments like that I was a psychology major, and we had to do a certain number, I had to participate in experiments as part of the major. So I did all kinds of interesting experiments, and there were so many where they'd show somebody something and then later you have to like identify, and I was so good at them. I was so good at them. Oh man, it's so funny. But people remember more than they think. And the thing is that you might not think that you're remembering it like on a conscious level, but suddenly you can. So the more you practice like remembering details of something, and just visualizing that using your third eye, the more it will open up, you know? So the key is just to be open and to relax. But those are some ways that your clairvoyance might come through. You can really focus on that third eye chakra, opening that, activating that. If you want to go deeper into clairvoyance and all the psychic senses, I strongly recommend my psychic development course. It is an in-depth course, self-paced, that you could do at your own time. You can start today to really develop all of your psychic senses and learn how to work with your intuitive gifts, open them up, develop them, work with them. There are lots of really potent activations, so many trainings. You learn all about discernment and protection. And anybody can step into that container because everybody is psychic. So I would strongly recommend that. If you do want to go deeper into claircognizance and all of your psychic senses and learn how to use them responsibly and clearly, but practice is key. And a lot of people are clairvoyant. You know, it's so funny whenever I have energy healing clients and I always ask, how did that go for you? What came up? And they'll describe all these visuals they were seeing, and you're like, yeah, that's your clairvoyance, right? They're seeing all these visuals, going all kinds of places. That is all clairvoyance. So I hope this was helpful. Leave a comment below if it was. Let me know how your clairvoyance shows up for you. Practice is key as always. You can check out my other videos and podcasts and posts and a bunch of freebies on my website as well if you're looking to develop more of your psychic senses. I will be back soon with another video on one of the other clairs, but be sure to hit the thumbs up button if you did like this, and maybe send this to somebody if you think it would be helpful for them, and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you would never miss a future video, especially if you are interested in learning about the other psychic senses. All right, that is it for today. Thanks so much again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.